Chairman, very much. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for your thank you for all of your work and all of your colleagues as well. President Biden was right to end the United States' longest war. If leaving Afghanistan was ever going to be clean and easy, one of the president's three predecessors would have done so. If we've learned anything from our 20-year war in Afghanistan, it's that it's easier to get into a war than to get out of one. However, given the amount of second-guessing and armchair quarterbacking that I've seen over the last month, I fear that we haven't learned anything. We must reimagine a national security policy that prioritizes diplomacy and stops endless, undefined military engagements before they can begin. And I want to be sure that Americans at home understand the position President Biden was placed in. President Trump's deal with the Taliban exchanged a halt in Taliban offensives against our troops for a commitment that we would leave the country by May of this year. President Trump, with the support of his national security team and many Republican members of Congress, negotiated this deal without the participation or buy-in of the Afghan government. President Biden faced a choice of having to break that deal, essentially restarting the war in Afghanistan and risk increased attacks against U.S. troops, or to get our troops home as promised. But President Trump, of course, did not leave to evacuate all of those who should have been taken out of Afghanistan. And President Trump's vision without a plan is and was an hallucination. So that left it then ultimately to the Biden administration, which did its best in order to effectuate that agreement which President Trump, in fact, made. And President Biden ultimately was right to follow through on that commitment to end our country's longest war, one that claimed so many military lives, so many tens of thousands of Afghan civilian lives, and saddled U.S. taxpayers with $2 trillion worth of debt over the last 2 decades. And the tremendous cost of war hit home in its final chapter as our armed forces and diplomats executed one of the largest airlifts in U.S. history. We owe them a debt of gratitude. Yesterday, Senator Warren and I both attended the funeral service for U.S. Marine Corps Sergeant Yohani Rosario Pachado in Lawrence, Massachusetts, one of the 13 American heroes who lost her life on August 26th in that suicide bombing as she was guiding Afghan women and girls to safety at the Kabul airport's Abbey Gate. The work of Purple Heart recipient Sergeant Rosario and others during Operation Allies Refuge saved thousands of innocent lives, and we have to ensure that our own commitment to help the Afghan people endures past the takeoff of that last U.S. military transport plane 2 weeks ago. But we honor her and we honor all of those who gave their lives and sacrificed in Afghanistan. And every member of this committee, I think, has to agree that we have to ensure that there is humanitarian aid that goes into Afghanistan to help those who are in need. We spent $300 million every single day to conduct the war in Afghanistan, roughly equivalent to what we spent this entire year in humanitarian assistance for Afghanistan. Mr. Secretary, I sent a letter with 4 of my colleagues today asking for the administration to ensure that the money previously allocated or requested for Afghan war efforts be repurposed to assist Afghans in need. Could you give your view as to what should happen with that funding now that the defunct Afghan defense and national security forces are not there to receive this funding, in terms of ensuring that we avert a further humanitarian catastrophe in Afghanistan?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. And I got your letter. We're looking at all of that. We want to make sure, in the first instance, that we are making good on our own contributions to the humanitarian assistance that the Afghan people need. We did that again yesterday at the pledging conference organized by the United Nations. We're going to continue to look at the needs going forward and to look at what we can do effectively to make sure that assistance is getting to the people who need it, not diverted, of course, to the Taliban-led government, and making sure that agencies, whether the UN or NGOs, can operate safely and effectively in Afghanistan.
Yeah, thank you. And as the last planes left, many international relief organizations stayed behind. We owe it to them not to create red tape and free them from the risk of sanctions. Are you working with the Treasury Department to issue a general license so that these groups' life-saving work can continue?
We are working on the necessary licensing authorities. As you know, we issued one license, the Treasury did, a couple of weeks ago. We're looking to see what additional authorities may be needed to make sure that humanitarian assistance can get in there freely.
Thank you. I think that's very important, and I think telescoping the time frame to get that completed is very important. And just about every major refugee assistance group has called for lifting the level to 200,000 people as refugee admissions into our country. What is the administration's view on that 200,000 person goal in order to ensure that we deal with the magnitude of this humanitarian crisis?
Senators, you did the refugee cap from its historic lows that were in place when we took office. And of course, we're assessing whether there are going to be additional needs. Having said that, the work we're doing now to bring Afghans in need who are vetted and checked into this country, including support we need from Congress on that, will not, for the most part, tap into the refugee cap. There are other means and mechanisms by which we're looking to bring people in to ensure, with your support, that they're given the assistance that they would get were they coming in as refugees, but not actually cutting into to the existing cap or any future cap.
I thank you, and thanks for all your great work. I just would hope that 200,000 is the goal. The resettlement agencies are pointing towards that number, and I think it's a number that we should all strive to meet in order to ensure that these individuals not only survive but thrive in their new environment. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thanks,
for all your great work.
Senator Haggerty.
Thank you, Senator Kane. Ranking Member Risch.